Howdy ho, Arkansas Pilgrim here again with another garden update, and I've got the wind blowing look going again, except there's no wind, and so my vanity is keeping me from filming myself for the introduction. At any rate, garden seems to be doing okay. I'm actually getting ripe tomatoes that don't have blossom end rot. Of course, here's another example of blossom end rot. And then actually here's another one. But hey, at least I am still getting something that's working. Garden gurus out there, there's any of you that want to offer some advice, that's great. Thank you very much to Jules from Jules Small Garden. If Jules is his name, I think he's working off an alias too. Not sure what he's got to hide. But he gave me some comments about how this is probably heat stress or thermal shock or something that's causing these plants to not produce, especially the squash. And I think he's right. And it made me think about a couple things that I have, quote, learned on the internet that I need to unlearn. And one of them is having to do with tomatoes and tomatoes being pollinated. I read someplace that, and this was having to do with saving seeds, that tomatoes, they're self-pollinating, which is true. The male and female part of the flower is all in one flower, and it said that they could pollinate before the flowers even opened. And I go, oh wow, cool. That is, so I don't have to worry about pollination. Well, I've been having, lots of flowering with not a lot of, results, and not as many as I was expecting anyway. And I guess part of that could be the heat stress thing. But I also, with a little more looking, found that, they sometimes need help pollinating. And what I've been doing, the one guy showed using one of those kids' battery-operated toothbrush where the tooth just vibrates. That helps. And me being a cheapskate, I'm not going to go buy one of those. But one of the things he said you could do is tap. Well, hey, I've just been coming along and doing this, and we'll see how that works. But that was an odd thing. It was a new thing to me. So anyway, if you've ever heard of that, that's you probably all knew it, and maybe I was the only one that didn't. What have we here? There may be something's been chewing on that there. I'm going to have to look for a tomato worm, and actually it's time to spray my BT again. They say do it every 2 weeks. I think it's been about 3. Been keeping an eye out, and I'm about to go on vacation. So I've been planning on doing it before I leave. It's time to do it. Another thing that, it wasn't something that I, learned and then needed to unlearn. It's just something I didn't know. These are heirloom plants. And I was just under the assumption heirlooms, what you want. Heirlooms means when they pollinate, you can save seeds from them. And you just have to be careful about cross-pollination. That's where I heard about the thing about tomatoes that wasn't correct. But Mark Smith over at Arkansas Woodcutter, he's a great gardener, got a lot of great information. He said something one time that I didn't want to hear. And then it was like, it's having to do with heirlooms. And this I guess this falls into the category of gardening's just a lot more complicated than you think. And sometimes you may learn something from something that happens in the garden that maybe you shouldn't learn because you don't know if what you're learning is actually what's causing the problem or causing the success. I mean, to get to what he was talking about was that heirlooms, they're made in certain places and they may be made for a certain climate. So I may have some nice heirloom squash that were made for Minnesota instead of being down here in the South. And I'm going to have to look for heirlooms that are bred for being able to grow in the heat, because it's been hot lately, but these plants were bushing up before it got really hot and bad. It was just the regular summer, a regular summer south heat. And they weren't producing then before we started having this hot weather where we're above 100 a lot every day. So that's something for you if you guys didn't know that. If you're looking for heirlooms, you got to research them and make sure they're for your own hardiness zone or area of the country or whatever. And I guess one more thing that I guess I don't know if you're going to categorize these as tips or just me just talking about stuff is was what I mentioned before about learning something that maybe you shouldn't learn. If you notice this bare spot here in the garden, okay? Well, I planted tomato plants there. As a matter of fact, about right there, I planted some pepper plants. The pepper plants just all of a sudden just died. Leaves fell off. They didn't wilt. They died. It wasn't that they weren't getting enough water. I don't know what the problem was. All of the transplanted tomatoes along here just didn't grow, either died or didn't grow very well. So I ended up pulling them up. Well, all these, I mean, they're all flourishing mostly. So you can plant stuff right next to each other, and actually I have this on some pepper plants over in my planter beds. I've got 2 of them growing great, and one of them is okay, but it's small. And they're all right next to each other. The soil's all the same. So if you're having some success or you're having some not success, you may not know what's going on. And I'll end on this, since I've been recommending that BT, the Bacillus thuringiensis, and actually I've learned how to say that now without having to pause. I'm assuming that it works, okay? Now, I had tomato worms up on wonderberries over in my planter beds. When I didn't have them here, they started to come here. I sprayed the BT on these plants, and I haven't seen a tomato worm since. There were a couple that were just after spraying, but it actually takes a couple of days to have full effect. So I've been assuming that BT works on this. And it also says it's supposed to work on squash vine borers, and I haven't seen any squash vine borers. But I also haven't seen any squash bugs. And I don't think it's necessarily recommended for squash bugs. So I'm actually assuming the BT does work, and that some of my soil prep ahead of time may have, because I've put black plastic down and heated up the ground, maybe that killed some of the squash bugs. The fact that I planted late apparently could be an issue. But the deal is, maybe the BT isn't the deal. Maybe, this hot summer, these tomato worms had said, heck with being here in the south, we're going someplace else. And it might not even be that. You never know, because sometimes something works one year and then it doesn't work the other. Sometimes gardening just seems like a crapshoot. But I guess we all have experienced that. And if you're a brand new gardener, you will. Don't get discouraged. I don't know if you can't not get, don't let discouragement stop you. I guess that's to be best. I'll end on that tip. God bless y'all. God bless your gardens and your growing efforts. I speak a blessing of productivity and plenty over all you garden gurus and all you gardeners that might happen to be watching. God bless y'all. See you next time.